Hello, everyone. Welcome to Broken English Club podcast.
Let's talk about that.
By engaging in this relentless performance, by acting as our own PR agents, we construct what psychologists refer to as a false self.
What exactly is the false self?
False self is an armor. It's an avatar. It is the version of you that never has a bad hair day, always has incredibly witty political takes, eats perfectly plated food, and goes on adventurous weekend hikes.
Right. You construct this flawless false self, and you present it to the world.
Yes.
Wait, I need to pause you right here because this is the part of the deep dive that always trips me up a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's say I build this great avatar, I post the cool photos, I write the funny captions, and then the world validates it.
And they reward you for it.
Yeah. Hundreds of people like the photos. They leave comments telling me how great my life is. Mechanistically, my brain is being flooded with positive reinforcement.
It is.
So why do the sociologists argue that this validation actually makes us more isolated? Shouldn't all that praise make me feel incredibly loved and secure?
It seems highly counterintuitive, I know.
Yeah.
Until you look at what is actually happening in your subconscious.
Okay, what's happening under the hood?
Deep down, beneath the dopamine hits, you know it's a performance. You know that the applause you're receiving isn't actually for you.
It's for the mask.
It's for the mask you're wearing. Imagine putting on a spectacular theatrical mask, walking into a room and having 1,000 people tell the mask how beautiful it is.
Okay, I can picture that.
Your true self, the messy, anxious, unedited, vulnerable human being hiding behind the mask, hears that applause and realizes something truly terrifying.
Which is?
They don't love me. They love the character I'm playing. In fact, if they saw the real me, if I took this mask off and showed them my messy Tuesday morning, they might reject me entirely.
Oh, wow. That is dark.
So the very validation of the false self becomes the exact wall that traps the true self in permanent isolation.
Because you can never let the mask slip.
Never. The more successful your performance is online, the more your true self starves in the dark. You are fundamentally alienating yourself from your own reality in order to maintain the applause.
That is incredibly heavy. The applause is actually building the prison.
It is the mortar of the prison.
If you are listening to this right now, I want you to genuinely reflect on your own digital footprint for a second. Think about the profile you present to the world.
It's a tough thing to look at, honestly.
It is. How much of it is a performance? What percentage of your digital existence is the false self?
When was the last time you let your network see the mess, the failure, the anxiety?
It takes a staggering amount of psychic energy to hold that mask up every single day.
And the sheer exhaustion of holding up that mask feeds directly into how our culture currently experiences FOMO.
The fear of missing out?
Yes. But we generally use FOMO as a superficial term, right?
Yeah, like you see your friends at a dinner party that you weren't invited to and you feel a pang of exclusion.
Exactly. But in the era of the curated highlight reel, FOMO has mutated. It has metastasized into something much darker and more profound.
How does it mutate? What is the deeper layer of FOMO today?
It is no longer just the fear of missing a specific social event. It has become a pervasive, ambient, existential dread.
Existential dread. Wow.
Yes. Because when you are exposed hour after hour to the curated successes, the milestones, the profound seeming moments of hundreds or thousands of other people,
It changes how you view your own life.
FOMO becomes the terrifying suspicion that everyone else is living a more meaningful life than you are.
Oh, that's heavy.
It's the creeping fear that you are somehow failing at the very concept of human existence.
You sit on your couch in your sweatpants, looking at a feed of people allegedly self-actualizing, and you think, everyone else has figured out the secret to happiness, and I am the only one who is lost.
Exactly. You feel like you've missed the boat on life itself.
I completely see the danger there. And here's where it gets really interesting. Let me push back on this narrative, the modern crisis, for a second.
Let's hear it.
Because if we zoom out and look at the broad sweep of human history, humans have always been obsessed with reputation management.
Oh, absolutely.
We have always curated a false self to some degree, haven't we? Think about a small farming town 100 years ago.
People cared deeply about what the neighbors thought.
Right. People didn't go to the Sunday town meeting or church in the dirty clothes they wore to muck out the barn.
No, they put on their Sunday best.
Exactly.
Huh.
They specifically curated their image for the neighbors. They painted their front fences and swept their porches so people walking by would think they were prosperous and tidy.
It's true.
We have always had a public face and a private face.
Yeah.
It's just basic human sociology. So mechanically speaking, how is an Instagram profile or a LinkedIn highlight reel actually any different from what we've been doing for centuries?
It is a phenomenal point, and you are absolutely correct that the impulse to curate, to manage how the tribe perceives us, is deeply embedded in our evolutionary hardware.
We just want to signal that we're valuable to the group.
Yes, but the difference and the exact reason this has escalated from a normal sociological quirk into a massive psychological crisis comes down to two catastrophic changes in the environment:
Okay, what are they?
inescapable scale and relentless velocity.
Scale and velocity. Break those down for me.
Let's look at that town meeting 100 years ago. You put on your Sunday best. You walked into town. You performed your public role. You smiled at the neighbors.
You maintained your curated public face.
But the key is, after 3 hours, you went home. You took off the stiff, uncomfortable clothes. You closed the heavy wooden door to your house. And the audience was gone.
Right. You were allowed to drop the performance.
There was a physical backstage area where you could just exist in your private mess entirely unseen.
The performance had a designated end time.
Exactly. And furthermore, look at the scale of your comparison group back then.
Right. Who were you comparing yourself to?
You were comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to the public faces of maybe 50 or 100 people in your immediate physical vicinity.
Your actual neighbors.
Yes, neighbors who dealt with the exact same weather, the exact same local economy, and roughly the exact same constraints as you. The playing field, while still curated, was relatively grounded in reality.
And now, look at today.
Today, the audience never goes home.
They really don't.
The audience is in your pocket, resting on your nightstand, vibrating in your hand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
There's no longer a backstage area.
None, unless you consciously, forcefully power down the devices. You are on stage from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep.
And the scale of the comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not just looking at my neighbor's new fence anymore.
No, you certainly aren't. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes Tuesday morning to the highly edited, financially sponsored, algorithmically boosted highlight reels of billionaires,
Hollywood celebrities, professional influencers.
and millions of strangers across the globe. You are participating in a global, infinite competition for perceived meaning and success.
And our brains just aren't built for that.
Not at all. Your Paleolithic brain, which evolved to track the social dynamics of roughly 150 people in a local tribe, is completely short-circuiting trying to process a global hierarchy. It cannot handle the velocity of the comparison.
So we are exhausted. We are constantly performing for an audience of thousands, day and night,
Checking our metrics, monitoring our digital avatars.
comparing ourselves to impossible global standards of perfection. It really makes you wonder, if we are always on stage, when do we ever just exist for ourselves?
When do we get to take off the armor and just be a human being?
Right. And the terrifying realization from the sources is that we are actually doing everything in our power to avoid exactly that.
We are running from it.
Because the armor is heavy, sure, but taking it off means facing the isolation we've built. We are terrified of being alone with ourselves.
Which leads us to the next massive shift in our psychological landscape.
Which is
The complete eradication of solitude and the extinction of boredom.
the extinction of boredom. That sounds dramatic, but it's so true.
This is, without a doubt, the most insidious, creeping consequence of our hyper-connected world. We have fundamentally forgotten, or perhaps we've been trained to forget, the vital difference between solitude and loneliness.
In our modern vernacular, we treat them as synonyms, don't we?
We absolutely do. We act as if being alone without external input is inherently a negative state, a problem that must be instantly medicated with a screen.
But historically and psychologically, they're entirely different concepts.
Almost opposing concepts, really.
Let's define those clearly for the listener.
Yeah.
What is the mechanistic difference between loneliness and solitude?
Loneliness, as we've established, is a deficit. It is a state of lack.
It's a painful feeling.
Very. It is the gnawing feeling of being disconnected, of being unseen, of craving the presence of others and not finding it. You can be profoundly lonely in the middle of a crowded concert, as you described earlier.
And solitude.
Solitude, on the other hand, is a rich, generative, and utterly necessary psychological state. Solitude is the act of being alone without feeling lonely.
It's intentional.
Yes, it is a state of mental quiet where there is absolutely no external input, no one to perform for, no data to process, no messages to respond to.
Just you and your thoughts.
Solitude is the incubator for the self. It is the only space where we can synthesize our daily experiences, process complex emotions, and actually figure out who we are when the audience is gone.
But true solitude requires silence. It requires a lack of distraction.
And we have none of that left.
Right. The constant noise of our digital environment has essentially hunted silence to extinction. Think about an average day. Think about the micro moments of friction or waiting that used to punctuate our lives.
They used to be everywhere.
You're standing in an elevator, riding up 8 floors. It takes maybe 20 seconds.
Or you are standing in line at the grocery store while the person in front of you writes a check.
Yeah, or you are sitting in your car waiting for a friend to walk out of their house.
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago, those moments were forced micro-solitude.
You had no choice.
You just had to stand there, stare at the wall, and be alone with the hum of your own thoughts.
And what is the immediate biological reflex in those exact same scenarios today?
Oh, it's instant. The absolute microsecond, we feel a hint of having nothing to actively engage with. The second the environment stops entertaining us, our hands, unconsciously, almost involuntarily, dive into our pockets.
The reflex is so ingrained.
We pull out the glass rectangle, we scroll the feed, we read a sensationalized headline. We check an inbox that we literally just checked 12 minutes ago.
We flee from the silence.
We self-medicate with digital noise to cure the discomfort of our own company.
And the consequence of this reflex is catastrophic for our internal cognitive lives.
Why is it so damaging?
Because we instantly reach for a distraction to avoid the slightest friction of boredom, we are systematically losing the ability to tolerate our own minds.
Yeah, losing the ability to tolerate our own minds.
Imagine the last time you stood in a coffee shop line and didn't pull out your phone.
I honestly can't remember. Actually, if you are listening to this, I challenge you to try it tomorrow morning. Walk into a cafe, stand in line, keep your hands by your sides, and just look around.
It is incredibly difficult now.
It feels almost physically painful. It feels socially transgressive. You feel awkward just standing there, looking at the ceiling, thinking.
It completely pathologized stillness.
If you aren't consuming data, you feel like you are doing something wrong.
We have.
Yeah.
And the result of this constant consumption is a profound society-wide crisis of self-knowledge.
Because we never pause to reflect.
Exactly. If you never allow yourself to sit in the quiet, if you never let your mind wander aimlessly without a podcast playing or a feed scrolling, you never process your own identity.
You're just reacting constantly.
Yes. You don't know what you actually value. You don't know what you are actually afraid of. You don't know what you want out of life because the only desires you register are the ones the algorithm is feeding you.
That is a terrifying thought.
And there is a stark, unavoidable psychological truth here. If you do not know how to be comfortable alone with yourself, you will always feel lonely regardless of how many people are texting you.
You can't be a good friend if you don't know who you are.
You cannot form a genuine, grounded connection with another human being if you do not first possess a grounded connection to yourself.
I hear the philosophy there. I
Yeah.
really do. But let me challenge the practicality of this for a minute.
Okay, let's look at the practical side.
Look at the demands of modern life. Am I seriously supposed to just stand in a metal box in an elevator and stare at the door?
Well,
Am I supposed to sit on a park bench for 20 minutes and do absolutely nothing? I have a business to run. I have family to coordinate. Isn't pulling out my phone in the grocery line just being ruthlessly efficient with my time?
it certainly feels efficient.
Right. I could be clearing out my inbox so I can be more present with my kids later. I could be reading an article and learning a new skill.
Yeah.
Why are we holding up boredom as this holy grail of human existence? Isn't boredom just a massive waste of precious time?
It is a brilliant question because it exposes exactly how deeply we have internalized the logic of the machine.
The logic of the machine, right?
What's fascinating here is how we have completely weaponized the concept of efficiency against our own neurological health.
Weaponized efficiency. Explain that.
Yes, clearing your inbox in an elevator is efficient in a strictly utilitarian, robotic, factory floor sense. But human brains are not hard drives. We are not designed for continuous, uninterrupted input and output.
We aren't machines.
Exactly. In the context of cognitive health, this relentless efficiency is actually the enemy of self-awareness.
Break down the neuroscience of that for me. Why is efficiency the enemy?
Because your brain requires massive amounts of energy to digest information. Think of it exactly like eating a physical meal.
Okay, going back to the food analogy.
You cannot just consume food constantly without pause for 24 hours a day. Your body requires periods of fasting, periods of rest to actually digest the food, extract the nutrients, repair cellular damage, and physically grow.
Right, if you just eat continuously, you become violently ill.
The human brain processes information and emotional experience in the exact same way. Boredom is not a void. Boredom is not a waste of time.
So what is it?
Boredom is the essential mental white space required for cognitive digestion.
The mental white space. I love that term.
Yes. When you are bored, when you are just staring at the wall in the elevator, when you are looking out the window of a train without your phone, your brain does not shut down.
It's still working.
It actually switches gears. It activates a neural network called the default mode network, or the DMN.
The default mode network.
And the DMN only fully comes online when you stop processing immediate, external, goal-oriented tasks.
Oh, wow. So when you stop being efficient.
Exactly. When the DMN lights up, your brain starts doing the heavy lifting of being human. It scrubs through your recent memories, consolidating what you've learned. It connects wildly disparate ideas, which is where creative insight comes from.
So that's why we get our best ideas in the shower.
Precisely. Because the DMN is active.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it processes unresolved emotional tensions. It does the background work of autobiographical planning, figuring out who you are and where you are going.
And what happens if we suppress it?
By completely eradicating boredom through constant digital input, we are aggressively suppressing the default mode network. We are eradicating the very neurological environment where self-discovery and emotional regulation happen.
So we are constantly consuming data, but we are never, ever digesting it.
Never. As a result, we walk around bloated with information, but completely starved of wisdom and self-knowledge.
That completely shifts the paradigm for me. The phone isn't a tool for efficiency. It's an anesthetic against digestion.
It is an anesthetic.
We are stuck in this terrifying loop. We are gorging on the empty digital calories of quick likes and emojis. We are completely exhausted from acting as the PR agents for our heavily edited false selves.
Yep.
And because we are so subconsciously exhausted and disconnected, we are absolutely terrified of sitting in silence with our own thoughts. So we reach for the digital noise to anesthetize the discomfort.
You just keep the noise running 24/7 to avoid facing the reality of our own isolation.
So, how do we break the loop? Because the reality is, I can't just pack my bags, move to a cabin in the woods, and throw my smartphone into a river.
No, you can't.
I need it for my job. I need it to navigate the city. I need it to coordinate my life. How do we survive this without becoming completely ascetic?
And that is exactly why the path forward is not about retreating to the woods. The solution lies in a philosophy of intentionality, specifically the practice of digital minimalism.
Digital minimalism. The sources are very clear that this is not about deleting apps, right?
It's crucial to understand that. Digital minimalism is not about simply deleting all your apps, smashing your screen, and swearing off technology like a Luddite.
It's not a rejection of the modern world.
No, it is about a radical shift in the power dynamic. Right now, for most of us, the technology dictates the terms of our behavior.
The phone buzzes, and we instantly jump to attention.
It offers a quick dopamine snack, and we eat it without thinking. We are subservient to the algorithm's schedule.
So how does minimalism flip that?
Digital minimalism is about stepping back, reclaiming your autonomy, and asking a very ruthless question. How can I use this highly advanced tool to facilitate the things I deeply value in the physical world, rather than letting the tool use my attention to generate ad revenue?
To give this some teeth, to make it really actionable for the listener, I want us to walk through a specific 3-step framework for reclaiming real connection.
Let's do it.
We aren't just going to give you a checklist. Based on everything we've uncovered about the neuroscience and the psychology today, we are going to deeply analyze the why behind each of these steps.
Step 1 in this shift is to prioritize presence.
Prioritize presence.
And specifically, this means putting the phone completely away, out of sight, out of reach, during meals and real-life conversations.
Let me be very clear on this. Not just flipping it face down on the restaurant table.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Away. Zipped in a bag, deep in a jacket pocket, physically removed from the environment entirely.
And if we look back at the mechanics of the vulnerability gap we discussed earlier, the biological reasoning for this becomes starkly obvious, doesn't it?
It really does. Real connection requires the full bandwidth of your evolutionary hardware. The eye contact, the tone, the micro-expressions.
So what happens if the phone is just sitting on the table?
When you have a smartphone resting on the table between you and your friend, even if it is face down, even if it is on silent, Cognitive studies show that its mere physical presence biologically reduces the depth and empathy of the conversation.
Wait, really? Just having it visible on the table degrades the conversation. How?
Because your brain knows what that object represents. It represents an infinite portal to other people, emergencies, emails, and dopamine hits.
It's an escape hatch.
Exactly. Even if you are trying to listen to your friend, your brain is silently allocating a percentage of its cognitive processing power to monitoring that device. You are subconsciously anticipating the interruption.
Your attention is fractured.
Always. By physically removing the device entirely, you are signaling to your own brain, and more importantly, to the other person's nervous system, I am fully here. There is no portal. You have my unbroken, undivided bandwidth.
That is so powerful.
In a world defined by constant, fractured distraction, offering someone your unmediated presence is one of the most profoundly vulnerable, radical, and loving things you can do.
It obliterates the vulnerability gap. It basically signals your physical reality is more important to me right now than the entire infinite scroll of the internet.
Exactly. It is the equivalent of taking the time to cook the hearty meal instead of just tossing them a bag of chips.
Which leads us seamlessly into step 2 of the challenge. Trade likes for links.
This is the direct behavioral antidote to the digital snack. The premise is beautifully simple, but incredibly hard in practice.
Okay, what is it?
Instead of passively tapping a heart on a friend's photo or leaving a generic "looks great man" comment, you use that exact moment of social impulse to create a real physical link.
So you see the photo, you feel the impulse to connect.
And instead of clicking, you call them. Or you text them right then to set up a time to meet for coffee.
I love this because what you are actually doing is forcing yourself to actively introduce friction back into your social life.
You are intentionally choosing friction.
The entire internet is built to eliminate friction. Giving a like is frictionless. It requires zero emotional risk. You tap twice, you move on.
But calling someone on the phone out of the blue, that is entirely composed of friction.
It's terrifying for a lot of people. What if they don't answer? What if I catch them at a bad time? What if we get on the phone and the conversation is awkward and we don't have anything profound to say?
But that friction, that awkwardness, is the very texture of a real human relationship. We have been trained to view social friction as a bug, but it is actually the feature.
Friction as a feature.
Think about the high-resolution versus low-resolution concept. When you call them, you don't just see the curated photo of their new puppy. You hear their voice.
You hear if they sound genuinely joyful or if they sound secretly exhausted from lack of sleep.
You get the high-definition reality. You bypass the impenetrable armor of the false self, and you interact with the true self.
Yes, opting for the full meal takes significantly more effort. It requires emotional risk. But it is the only mechanism we have to genuinely nourish the relationship.
You have to choose to do the hard thing precisely because the hard thing is the valuable thing.
Which brings us to the final piece of the framework. Step 3. Embrace the boring.
This is where we resurrect the default mode network. This is the practice of letting yourself be bored.
The next time you are standing in line for your morning coffee, or you're sitting on the subway, or you are a few minutes early to a meeting, you keep your hands out of your pockets.
You do not look at the screen. You just exist in the space.
And we have to be honest about what this feels like.
It will be physically uncomfortable at first. You will feel that phantom itch, that twitch in your fingers to pull out the device.
It is a literal dopaminergic withdrawal symptom.
It is. Your brain will scream at you that you are wasting time, that you need to check your email.
But if you can white-knuckle through that initial wave of anxiety,
if you can just endure the silence, something remarkable happens. You grant your brain the mental white space it has been starving for. You allow the default mode network to boot up.
you give yourself the rare gift of solitude.
The space to actually meet yourself, to process your anxieties, and to figure out who you actually are when you aren't performing for a digital audience.
Looking at these 3 steps, prioritizing unmediated presence, trading frictionless likes for high-friction links, and embracing the terrifying silence of boredom, it really points to a much larger unifying philosophy about how we survive the modern age.
It really does. There is an old adage, technology is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master.
And right now, for a huge portion of the population, technology is the master.
It dictates the terms of our engagement with reality. It demands our attention through notifications. It isolates us behind the heavy armor of our curated avatars.
It feeds us thousands of empty social calories, and it completely steals our capacity for self-reflection.
But what does a life actually look like when we stage a rebellion? What happens when we force the technology back into its proper role as a servant?
It looks like a tool that enhances our physical reality rather than replacing it.
Exactly.
It looks like using a group chat to quickly coordinate a time to meet your 3 a.m. friends at a diner, and then putting the phone in your pockets for 2 hours while you actually look at their faces.
It looks like using a map app to find a beautiful hiking trail and then taking a picture with your eyes instead of your camera.
It is about intentionally, stubbornly putting the physical, messy, unedited, high-friction real world first.
And to do that requires immense psychological bravery.
Why bravery?
Because the digital world is safe. It is predictable. It is utterly controllable. You can draft and edit a text message 4 times before you hit send to make sure you sound perfectly witty.
You can put a filter on a photo to hide the dark circles under your eyes.
You can curate exactly how the world perceives you, but the real physical world doesn't offer filters.
Real presence is wildly unpredictable.
It is sometimes intensely awkward. You might say the wrong thing. You might reveal that you are struggling. But that unedited reality is the only place where true belonging can grow.
Which brings us to a final, incredibly powerful contrast to wrap our minds around. I really want this to sink in for everyone listening.
It's the core of the whole issue.
We started this hour talking about the emptiness of the concert, the paradox of being globally connected but personally isolated. And the core truth we've uncovered is this. Connection is a click away, but belonging requires showing up.
Showing up.
Showing up is an active, vulnerable, undeniably physical choice. You cannot click your way into a state of belonging. You cannot double tap your way out of a loneliness epidemic.
You really can't.
At some point, you have to physically bring your true self, your messy, anxious, unedited, behind-the-scenes reality into the presence of another human being and let them see you.
You have to risk being known. That is the only biological and psychological cure for the emptiness we described at the very beginning of this journey.
We've covered massive ground today. We moved from the evolutionary biology of why digital snacks leave us socially starving to the crushing psychological weight of maintaining a false self for a global audience.
We looked at the terrifying consequences of eradicating boredom and starving our default mode network.
And we laid out a tangible philosophy for reclaiming our presence and trading frictionless connection for real, messy, human links.
It demands a fundamental, conscious rewiring of how we interact with the modern ecosystem.
It really does. And as we close, I know you had a final provocative thought experiment you wanted to pose, something that builds on everything we've explored.
I do. We have firmly established that belonging requires showing up. But let's fast forward. Let's look at the macro-level implications of this.
Okay, looking into the future.
If we spend the next decade continuing on our current trajectory, training our nervous systems to avoid friction, training our brains to just click, instead of showing up, what happens to the actual fabric of society? What happens to the survival of our local communities, our physical neighborhoods, and the existence of the 3 a.m. friendship if we don't consciously intervene today?
It's a terrifying prospect.
If we continue to retreat into the safe, curated, low-resolution warmth of the digital world, we aren't just risking our own personal, internal loneliness, we are risking the extinction of community itself.
The extinction of community.
Choosing the awkward, unedited reality of showing up today isn't just a life hack for your dopamine levels. It is a desperate necessity for preserving the very essence of human solidarity.
What an incredibly urgent question to leave us with. The stakes are profoundly higher than just managing our screen time.
They absolutely are.
Thank you, as always, for joining us on this deep dive. We know your attention is the most valuable currency you have, and we appreciate you spending it here exploring these ideas with us.
It's been a great conversation.
So, here's your challenge for the week. The very next time you find yourself waiting in line or standing in an elevator and you feel that familiar urgent itch to pull out your screen, leave the phone in your pocket, keep your hands at your sides, look around, breathe, endure the silence, and just see what happens.